Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What's up, guys? For today's video, I'm going to be doing another player versus player comparison, and I'm going to be breaking down two running backs today. It's going to be Antonio Gibson and Joe Mixon. So I'm going to go through each player's current ADP, their 2019 season, 2020 season, what I'm expecting from them in 2021, and then which player I would prefer to draft. If I'm on the clock and these are the two players that I'm choosing from, which way am I going to go? If you guys watch this video and you find yourself enjoying the content, all I ask is that you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That would really help support me, and I would appreciate that a lot. And then also, after you've heard the breakdown, let me know down below if you're going to be drafting Antonio Gibson or Joe Mixon, and let me know your reasoning. Remember, this isn't for me to tell you guys who you should be drafting. This is just for me to present all the information so you guys can make the best decisions for your teams. They're going close together, so there's not a clear best option and really no wrong choices here. But let's get into the breakdown. I'm going to start off by going through each player's current ADP. So right now, Antonio Gibson is being drafted as the RB11 and Joe Mixon is being picked as the RB12. They're both going at around mid-second round picks, and they're going back-to-back according to Underdog Fantasy Football. So this is a very realistic, situation that you may find yourself in drafts. Moving on to the 2019 season, Antonio Gibson was in his redshirt sophomore season at Memphis, and he really didn't play a major role in college. A lot of these top fantasy running backs were workhorses at top schools. That was not Antonio Gibson. He wasn't a starter in either of his two seasons. In 2018, he had 0 rush attempts and only 6 receptions, so basically not involved at all. And then in 2019 was his last college season, but still didn't have a huge workload. He only carried the ball 33 times for 369 rushing yards. He was the 4th running back on that Memphis team in carries. He found his main role in the receiving game, though. He caught 38 passes for 735 receiving yards and 12 total touchdowns. And so even though he wasn't getting a ton of volume, he was very efficient when he did touch the ball. He averaged 11.2 yards per carry and then 19.3 yards per reception. So he definitely showed some promise there. And that led him to be the second pick of the 3rd round, going to the Washington football team. In 2019, Joe Mixon finished as the RB18 in points per game and then the RB13 in total points, but it was still a disappointing season. He was drafted to be a lower end RB1, but really just didn't live up to that ADP. I like to focus more on points per game, and in terms of points per game, he was more of a mid-tier running back too. He played the full 16-game season, went for 1,137 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, 35 receptions for 287 receiving yards, and then 3 receiving touchdowns. He didn't really struggle in terms of opportunities, but he definitely struggled at getting into the end zone and also in efficiency. But once the offensive line started getting healthier towards the end of the season, Mixon definitely picked it up, which I think gave a lot of people hope for him in the 2020 season. Moving on to 2020, we saw Antonio Gibson finish as the RB16 in points per game, and Joe Mixon finished as the RB10. Antonio Gibson wasn't lined up to be the starter during the offseason, but then Darius Geis was released and Antonio Gibson was able to step in and win the job. He put together a really great rookie season. In 14 games, he went for 795 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, and then added 36 receptions for 247 receiving yards. He took over the bulk of the carries, but still wasn't able to secure a huge receiving role. J.D. McKissick kind of had that spot locked up. For Joe Mixon, he played in 6 games. He rushed for 428 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and then added 21 receptions for 138 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. He missed the majority of the season with a foot injury, but he still received a very solid workload, but once again struggled with efficiency, and the offensive line play again was poor, just like the 2019 season. And even though Mixon's per game numbers looked pretty solid, he was the RB10 in points per game, looking like an RB1, they were heavily skewed by one huge game. So if he was in your lineup, he definitely didn't feel like an RB1. Now let's talk about each player's 2021 outlook. For Antonio Gibson, I expect him to continue to build on his 2020 rookie season. I think there should be no doubt that Gibson is going to be getting the workhorse touches out of the gate. I think he's definitely going to see an increase in the receiving game, but I don't think it's going to be enough to overtake McKissic. I think McKissic is still going to dominate the targets. But now playing with either Ryan Fitzpatrick or even Heineke, this offense should have a much higher ceiling and much higher touchdown upside than they did last season with the Alex Smith, Allen, Dwayne Haskins combo. I mean, that was just not it. So this new quarterback play should definitely also benefit Gibson. For Joe Mixon, I think he has a huge ceiling this year. He already showed that he's going to get a major workload like he did in 2020, and I think he's going to be in store for even more opportunities. Giovanni Bernard is no longer on the roster, and he was a pretty just pesky part of this offense. He played a pretty solid role in the receiving game, and they would also get some work, in the 2-minute drills, which just seemed strange. But Mixon now has a clear monopoly over every role in that backfield. He's going to be the red zone back. He's going to be the guy getting all the carries, all the targets. I could easily see him receiving 20-plus carries and 5-plus targets a game. And this is going to be a team with an improved offensive line. It's still not going to be a top-tier unit, but it's definitely going to be better from last season. And they're also just going to have a more explosive, high-scoring offense overall. You bring in Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow has another year of NFL experience. I think this offense is definitely going to take a step up, and Joe Mixon should reap the benefits of that in terms of touchdown upside. All right, now if I was on the clock and I had to be choosing between Antonio Gibson or Joe Mixon, I don't really think you can go wrong with either player. I view both of them as kind of low-end RB1s or very high-end RB2s. I think Gibson is likely the safer option this year, but I'm honestly leaning towards Mixon, and I understand that that's probably not going to be the consensus opinion. I think most people are going to favor Antonio Gibson, but I just don't think I can pass up on Joe Mixon's potential workload. I totally see a path for him where he's able to finish as a top 5 running back. He puts it all together. He gets that receiving work, gets all those carries. This offense is improved. He gets in the end zone a bunch and just puts together a crazy season. I just don't see the same upside for Antonio Gibson since he doesn't have that receiving role locked up. But like I said, you really can't go wrong with either player, but I'm just going to lean towards the upside, and I would rather have Joe Mixon. So that's going to wrap it up for this player versus player video. Once again, let me know down below, who would you guys rather be drafting, Joe Mixon or Antonio Gibson? And then let me know your reasoning. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please just leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, watching, and listening. Stay tuned tomorrow. I'm going to be putting out another mock draft, so make sure you guys look out for that. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.